everyone, and welcome to this broadcast. Mark DeJesus is in the house, bringing you Sunday Night Live. This is the SNL that you really need to arrive at for your healing and freedom journey. Welcome, everyone. Hopefully, our broadcast is coming through well and effectively to where you are today, whether it's the evening, East Coast time, or whether you're about to go to sleep or you're already in bed and watching this maybe the next day, or you are on the West Coast or somewhere yonder where it's earlier in the day. I am here to tell all of you on the West Coast that the day is going to be okay. I'm here in the future. Anyway, it's great to be here. Thank you for your patience, everyone, as we were navigating a lot of technical difficulties and adjustments and things like that. I had issues with my camera, issues with mixer, issues everywhere. And so I think I got the devil out just in time for us to get this going. Of course, with me today is the love of my life and all that I cling to. You mean more than this world to me. I wouldn't trade you for silver or gold. Wouldn't trade you for riches untold.
Thank you.
You are my everything. So anyways, Melissa DeJesus.
Wait, what was the song you sang to me at our wedding?
That was If Beauty's All in the Eye of the Beholder.
That's right. For some reason, it just made me think of that.
Yeah, I sang that for you.
You did. It was so special.
If beauty is all in the eye. Yeah, it's a Jeff Moore song if anyone wants to look up.
Yes, Mark did sing to me on our wedding day.
Yes,
as I came down the aisle. It was very special.
Yep. Well, you were very beautiful and still are. So I had to give a
Even with
song.
my hat head.
I had to give a song that was worth the beauty that was there. And when I grabbed the mic in typical fashion happens a lot. I grabbed the mic, start singing. The mic's not working. So.
Right. Figures, right? We always have something. We think our day's going smooth. Listen, we were floating in our little Walmart pool. You gotta love the Walmart pools. It suits our need. We're floating in our pool, having a relaxing day, then get ready for the show, and then something happens.
Yep.
10 minutes before.
Yeah, just before. Yeah, and my camera is acting up here, so I'm a little bit more red and orangey, and your color actually
it's still not. You have a glow. I'm not gonna lie.
This isn't a glow. It's.
I know it's like a red hue, but it's still a glow. I don't know.
Well,
I'm jealous of your glow.
We have our daughter Abby is behind the scenes.
She's over there.
Yep, she's
on Rumble. She is monitoring Rumble for us.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a family affair going on here today, and we had a lot going on this week. I launched the OCD Healing Journey for those of you that are in the Healing and Freedom community. It has officially been launched. I'm teaching on the OCD Healing Journey book, and so I will be depositing sessions each week in packages. I'll be batch loading them in, and what I covered in the material goes over chapter 1, but it's not teaching chapter 1. It's me taking it now and applying it into your world and giving you some tips and insights, questions, journaling exercises, stuff like that. So that's been great. Those of you that want to make an investment in your healing and freedom journey, you want to interact with others who are passionate about mental, emotional, relationship health and have access to all my course materials, that is the place to do it. You can join there. But anyways, I've had that going on, and in addition, also doing this teaching series on guilt and toxic guilt, and that has been a very important series to get out into people's lives, because in our mental health journey, if we're navigating brokenness, if we're navigating what we need healing in and renewal in, we have to deal with anxiety, we have to deal with guilt. It's just there, and I pray that people will really tune into it. I'm doing extra stuff for the community, so that's another bonus in being part of the community there. And I'm really trying to focus my efforts on where I'm investing that extra energy too. So then what else is going on?
Well, it's been nonstop raining, and it finally was a nice day today. I don't know if it's raining where y'all are, but it has not stopped raining.
Yeah.
We haven't had, listen, we moved to North Carolina with very expectant joy of how much sun we would be getting.
Yeah. And
There has not been.
this week it wasn't much.
But even then, we had like a good week. Then it was rain before that. So I'm not happy.
Yeah. You were made for sun.
I was.
Yeah.
Even though I'm Lithuanian and very European, I need the sun.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Very, very true. So I would like to present a question to the chat. The people that are in the live
Yes.
chat, I'll give you an opportunity to just greet everyone that's in the chat. But before you do that, I would like to ask if anyone has a good story. And again, it's comment section, so it can't be super long. What was something funny that happened when you tried to get some therapy or you met with someone in therapy? What was something that was, you can look back and it was kind of comical?
Yeah, because you and I were talking about this and we were laughing because you had something with a client. I don't know if you got permission to share the story, but it's a funny story. But then you and I started sharing stories of, things over the years of stuff that's happened to us, or where like even me in my 20s trying to find a counselor, just really funny things that have happened.
Yeah. So,
And then when you and I, because when we lived in Connecticut, we had an office. So Mark and I would do ministry sessions, counseling sessions together, which I actually loved. They were fun. But yeah, so we had a couple things there that we probably can't share for 20 years.
right. Well, what I was reflecting on, I'll get to the comment somebody said to me this week in their experience. I find that there's a struggle that Christians have when it comes to mental health and therapy, psychological help, or whatever. Is that they're in a world where there's their church world, they're taught the Bible and things like that, and then there's like mental health world. And I'm a big encourager of God is involved in your mental health. He's there in it, and he's a big part of wanting to renew your heart, heal your heart, renew your mind. And in fact, that used to be the tagline of our show years ago: is healing of the heart, renewing of the mind, restored relationships. And so I don't see it as like two separate worlds. And so a lot of believers, though, they get frustrated because they try to talk to their pastor about maybe their OCD issue. And the pastor doesn't really understand it, right? So they get frustrated, and they go to a mental health person. And the mental health person may or may not understand how to work with their faith grid. So they're like, I'm spinning about, maybe I'm not saved and I'm going to hell. And the therapist is like, don't worry about it. Right? Is there a hell anyway?
Right.
And so they're like, okay, now I'm either more spinning or having an even harder time navigating and walking through this, this journey.
Can I just share something somebody wrote real quick?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
man, I don't have enough typing aloud for my stories with the OCD specialist I saw.
Right.
Oh, right.
Yeah, OCD is a great example because the problem is not the problem. So when someone brings up something they're disturbed about, a therapist can be tempted to go there with you, right? I have these thoughts and that I may hurt someone. Ooh, yeah. Have you had a pattern of hurting people? If they're not understanding, having a good grid. Oh, okay, let me understand a little more about this. It could go.
There's some good stories. Okay, hold on. Okay. Brooke Elizabeth said, my first secular therapist asked me if I thought I was a good enough person to get into heaven. I had been a Christian for like 4 weeks, but I was like, that's not really how it works.
Right. They just not made the.
Wait. JC Burdenlifter said his therapist told him to say, I am a big, brave dog. He said it made him laugh. Oh my gosh! I'm sorry, everybody.
So I'm gonna give a mix.
That's so funny.
I'm gonna give a mixture of things here because back when we were pastoring and we had our church, and there was a lady who we did some work with, and we had a lot of people where their pastors were like, we don't know what to do. They're like, this guy Mark over there, why don't you go to his church because he helps people in these areas. So we're sitting down with her, and she's telling me my pastor was trying to do deliverance on me, and he was getting frustrated. So he got up like on top of a chair and was like standing like on top of me, like trying to get the demon out. It was like yelling. I'm like, wait, okay, hold on. He's like up on the chair. She's like, yeah, like he.
Didn't we have someone too that said they were punched in the face?
Yeah,
that's the same story. I thought that's what you were saying.
Same story. You're right.
Yeah.
Now, how accurate?
People have their
It could be exaggerated
Right.
or not, but I've ran into a lot of people who practice very violent, deliverance when they take spiritual warfare literally and they start whipping their sword out and it gets physically violent up in here.
Right. Wait, I have to read. Where did it go? He even said, okay. One time I crossed my legs in therapy and my therapist said it was a sign I wasn't relaxed and came over and forcibly uncrossed my legs. Right. Someone wrote, is that even legal? I don't think so. Okay.
No,
That is crazy.
no. I hear a lot of stories of therapists kind of like borderline hitting on people.
Well, I had that. Okay, so I was in my early 20s and I'm like OCD spinning like wild on should I go left, right? Should I eat peanut butter and jelly and I've joked about it in the past and I was just a hot mess. So I find this guy he's like a grandpa, He's doing his thing. He's super chill. And I go in and I'm explaining everything to him. And Mark and I were just laughing about this in the pool. He says to me, I don't understand. I mean, you're so good looking. It seems like your family really loves you. I don't understand. I don't feel like he was hitting on me. He was just like being,
yeah,
it was just not good.
Well, I believe most people's awkward interactions with a therapist or someone doing a prayer session or whatever it is.
Right.
A lot of times, the majority of those things come out of they don't really know what to do. And instead of going, I'm not, because we focus so much on like trying to like fix or have the right answers. So there was somebody I was talking to this week, and she said she's working through OCD stuff and OCD battles, and the therapist is trying to like be helpful, and the therapist is not a Christian, and so the therapist is trying to relate. He doesn't have a faith walk, trying to relate. So the therapist is like, well, Jesus made mistakes too. So I just started.
That is the best.
I just started.
That
Okay, so
is the best.
that's one of those. Like that's one of those.
That's like
like
wait,
when,
what? Right.
yeah, like there's a lot of times in the mind when you're working with people, and I think that this is not I'm not trying to knock on therapists because I'm actually going to go somewhere with this, but when you're helping people, you can only take people as far as like you've gone in your own life, or as far as you know what I mean, in the sense of not that you have to arrive to help people. That's not it. But you have to be going somewhere where you have things to offer. And if people are just professional pastors or professional clinicians, over time it's gonna kind of become evident because all life change happens relationally. We focus on the formula or the thing, but if you look at your history, at any change that's been in your life, it's been as a result of you relating with someone, relating to yourself, or relating to God in a new way that then empowered you, right? And we focus on, the technique, the thing that they said, or this kind of prayer, this kind of thing. No, it's just they loved you. They loved you, and you had a great experience with that. Anybody else share anything?
Let me see here. Wait, David Jenkins had said something funny about George Costanza. Hold on. Where did it go? Where is it? He said something about George Costanza's counselor. It made me laugh. I can't find it now.
I'm trying to remember George Costanza's counselor.
I know, me too. We're going to have to go back and watch that. Sorry.
No, it's all right. So here's the thing that I want to encourage people, and you tell me what you think. We have a lot of times we kind of divide life up. Okay, I go to this person here, this person.
Oh wait,
here.
David Jenkins said she helped him fix his zipper. Because they're so OCD. They're like the best. Yes. Okay, we're going to have to watch
So-
it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, it's all right. So getting help for OCD from someone who is acting OCD, is that
Yes, I forget. We're going to have to watch it.
okay? So I think what I want to encourage people in this process, because you and I we've had a lot of help in our journey of like trying to reach out and find people that could help us, right?
Yes.
Some were pastors, some were prayer ministers, counselors, right? And we have to be kind to ourselves. It's part of the journey. And a lot of times you figure out someone's not really a great fit. Remember years ago when we had met with someone and she was like very like woo woo and like very like what's Spirit's saying. And
yes,
remember that?
That was yes.
So,
that was the lady that I went to when I was having a nervous breakdown because we were living in a condo with Max and like we had the flood and the whole thing. Yeah, she was a Christian counselor, but she was super woo woo.
Yeah,
very woo woo. She's very nice, but very woo woo.
But here's the interesting thing, though. In that process, we learned we had been through stages of trauma.
Yeah, we did. So she was good for that season, actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
It brought that light bulb on.
Yes.
So
I think. Did. Yeah, you're right, babe.
I think that if I look back, I don't think I've ever had someone who was like just a perfect match for all the things that I needed.
Correct. Yep.
And I want to encourage people. You might be going to someone, maybe they're very good at OCD, but they don't really get your faith grid. They could still be a great help because and sometimes that outside perspective, without all the fog of confusion over your spirituality, could help just speak into the practical, right? Mm-hmm. And where someone in the church may not understand the mental health aspects of what you're going through, they could be like, "Hey, you're really hard on yourself."
Right.
That one insight can provide you with that's where your battle is, right? And a lot of times we want like the perfect person to be the perfect thing to help. There's only one. His name's Jesus.
Yeah,
and
we want someone to really get us.
Right.
We want it. Yeah. Really, I wanted to find like a mom.
Correct.
Let's be real.
Yeah, we're all looking for dads and moms.
Yeah.
Because isn't that what therapy is standing in for? Is standing in for all our family gaps and stuff. And
therapists, counselors will usually just stare at you. They don't usually give you the affirmation that you're looking for. Like, maybe when you're trying to express yourself and you get a dead stare, then us OCDers can leave and we're spinning and spinning.
Right.
Spinning. Right, exactly.
And then you go to church and they're like,
sorry, I just looked down and saw what you were doing with the paper.
And then you go to church and it's like,
did you pray enough today?
Right. Maybe you need to go to the altar again.
The voice is back.
Did you pray enough today?
Oh my.
You need to get in the Word more. That is what your problem is. You need to get in the Word. I'm going to tell you this right now. You are not reading the Bible enough.
Mm-hmm.
But I read like 3 chapters yesterday, and then I was spinning about it over and over again.
Well, you need to go back and read some more. You need to, you know what? You haven't fully surrendered. You got to fully surrender.
How do I do that? How do I get to fully? What do I do to really surrender? I thought I surrendered. Did I surrender enough?
If you don't surrender, I'm about to slap you with some surrender.
Or send you to aisle 312. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. Where's that one?
Yes,
I gotta
that
find
one's
that.
the good one.
Yeah. Attention all. I have to put the mic away. Attention all. Attention all OCDers. Fully surrender is way in the back of the store in the shelves, way up top. You're gonna have to get help. It's in the upper bays. You'll find fully surrendered. It's very small. You're probably going to miss it. So hurry up. The first one that gets it, and all the rest of you are disqualified. Thank you.
Preach it. I'm telling you what. People haven't given their life and fully surrender. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to tell you.
Oh my goodness.
So that was part,
that is so
that was
good.
part of my technical difficulties because I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with this mixer, and they finally had an update to it, so I think it's working. But if this whole thing cuts out, and,
Well, at least we made people laugh in the beginning because we're trying our best. Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, I really love that church lady voice a lot.
I know.
That's kind of your thing now, too. And it's so funny. Oh, my goodness. It's so funny.
So even if, okay, let's say,
Yes,
let's
sir.
Say, let's say I'm sitting down with someone
Okay.
and they get a little bit of like,
You just need to just let it go. You just need to do something. Like, I don't even know what
to tell you, if you get that, we get embarrassed, we get shame, right? But I take that as a cue. I'm obsessing, and this is going nowhere. That's a cue for me. Where I'm going with this is not fruitful. So, if people out there, if you can take even your unhelpful experiences, it's like the pastor who said to me, I sounded like a Seinfeld episode, and he hurt my feelings. But as I look back, my relational world did look like a Seinfeld episode as far as what was in my head, right? It just wasn't empathetic, right? And many of you have really bad non-empathetic experiences. But can we step back and go,
Yeah, I have one.
I hear you.
I have a good one where a lady, like, it's a long story and I'm not going to get into it, of a bad dating relationship that ended up where I had to go to remanded counseling and go to those like secret meeting places. Anyways, walk in and the girl, there's all these people in there and way off, worse situation than me. But one of the girls that was one of the counselors there that I had to go to, she looked at me and she read me exactly. I mean, she gave it to me. She was like, do you see all these people out there with their kids? They're like, she's like, that's what your future is going to be. If you don't pull it together. She gave me like the hard truth. You know, when you see those things, they've done on shows where they have like the Marine or an Army guy take these kids and they speak, like, what do they call it? Scared straight.
Yep.
That's what she did to me.
Yep.
And honestly, at that time in my life, she scared me straight and set me straight.
Yep.
I needed it.
Right. But then there's...
But it wasn't fun, but I needed the truth in my face,
Right. That's why I try to look back and when the dust settles, I go, you know what? I could see what they're saying, right? Like there are people that give terrible input. I remember going back to my relationship OCD days, where a couple people told me I was going to be 65 and alone,
Yeah.
and it was hurtful, and I got mad, and it wasn't the most loving delivery. It wasn't compassionate, but there was something there, and that's where the heart of an overcomer, if you can, as you recover from sometimes people saying things too harsh or whatever, and go home, I want to take in the truth that's available regardless, because it'll still lead me into freedom, right? Like the person that said I was a Seinfeld episode, not the greatest person to talk to about my problems and issues. Got it. All right. But it gives me information about how I'm coming across, and that this is getting neurotic. I'm in a spin cycle that's not going anywhere, and that's informative to me. Okay, I can't keep chasing where this is leading, right? Now, when it comes to therapy, though, I think a lot of people don't realize it takes about 6 months to probably build a decent rapport.
I mean, I would say 6 months to a year can be too, right? Depending on how much you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I find after a year, you can start like
Really getting somewhere. Yeah.
and people go, "Oh, that's too long." Because like me, when I was first, trying to find somebody to talk to, and I was like, I couldn't. The meeting couldn't come soon enough. I just want, really, 2 weeks I have to wait, and as soon as I'm getting in there, I'm like, I gotta solve this, and I didn't realize, no, I got a journey now. I got a lot of learning, a lot of relearning to do, and interestingly enough, there was a counselor I was seeing. This is the first one, And I can't say he was very helpful, but he did say to me, "Hey, you need to move out of your parents' house." And that was like brand new information for me. I didn't know how to leave father and mother. And it's like there were so many places in me that were still immature, adolescent. I was like super professional pastor guy over here, but very, very super young adolescent in very emotional development in areas of my personal walk in life. And but one day after going to him for a bit, I said, "Hey, I did a sermon on fear, and if you ever check it out, here's a CD of it." And I didn't think anything of it. And when I do that, I don't expect people to listen to it. Well, the next time I met with him, came back and he said to me, "Hey, I listened to your sermon, and I want you to know that you got something here. And what you're battling and going through, like this is also like God's working something here." And he saw the potential that I had and being able to share with other people what I was learning, right? But it took time to see that side, because he didn't see that communicating side of me, of my ability to communicate and share. Once he heard, now my point being is it takes a while to get to know.
Right, it does.
Yeah. What else is going on in the I see you.
Sorry, no, I was just looking because I know Abby's monitoring Rumble. Anything good in Rumble, Abby?
Well, she doesn't have a mic.
Cute. Yes, sorry.
People love Dad's voice.
But why don't we take a quick break here?
Yeah, you want to do that?
And we'll come back and maybe I'll get to what I was going to talk about. Any other good stories when it comes to any comments of any good things that people had going on?
No, I think people are interacting just great in the chat, and it's awesome.
Any questions? Any questions?
I did not see any, although, hold on one second, because I think we did have a super chat in the beginning that I wanted to get to. Yes.
Okay.
JC Burden Lifter said, "God bless you, Mark and Melissa. I just picked up Experiencing God's Love as Your Father, and I can't wait to read it. Thank you again for your ministry."
You can get that as a free download. So, yeah, no, it's available right now.
And I believe it was JC Lifter that is also, him and his wife are having burgers and corn on the cob and watching us.
That sounds amazing.
That is amazing.
Absolutely amazing. Okay, so anything else we want to say about getting help or things like that?
I don't think so. I think we covered it.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are going back and forth. It's great. Listen.
Fun little discussion.
Yeah, and you know what? Just hang in there. That's what I would say.
Well, I think that people sometimes you go and you get frustrated because you want results to happen quickly.
Yeah.
And if somebody's not a good fit, like just give it a little time and see what happens.
Yeah. And
Because
sometimes, I don't mean to interrupt you,
Go
but
ahead.
sometimes we think it's that they're not a good fit, especially us OCDers that overspin and want it to feel right and you want to say right. And then if you say something and then you're in shame and you're spinning and you're like, I can't go back to them, we don't give it time. And that's where you have been really wonderful for me on just encouraging me in certain times that I have sought out to process certain things. Just hang in there and find out too there's certain counselors that are good at certain things.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Biggest
Sometimes
thing you want is someone who has an empathy capacity.
Yeah, absolutely.
That they're like not trying to fix you and there's people that have worked with me and then they also see a therapist. It's fine. And
Right.
sometimes that works in good conjunction. It's supportive and I sometimes go, hey, what's some of the feedback this person the therapist is
Yeah.
giving you, so I can be aware and because I want to be just an overall support to what God is doing. Because I find at each layer of my journey, I become aware of something that I wasn't aware of before. And I may like even this year, there's been illuminations in certain areas where 10 years ago you could have easily called it out in me. But I wasn't ready
You
to
weren't
go.
ready to hear it.
I wasn't ready to hear it. I
Yep.
wasn't ready to see it, and I wasn't ready to actually walk through it.
100%.
And so that's why we have to see this. The journey mindset is so important because,
Absolutely.
and God will just stay humble and open, and God will use what He needs to use. Bring people into your life. You may see a YouTube video come in your feed late one night or whatever to help add to the arsenal of what's needed for your journey. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Don't you know it? Let me just acknowledge John Pinchinati.
Oh, Pinchinati! Hey, Gianna Pinchinati, I'm having my Spellegrino.
He said, thanks to you both, your ministry is so needed.
Thanks.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
We
It's
just
great.
like to say your name.
Hope the youth ministry is going well.
Did you burp?
Young adult? No.
Oh.
It was kind. It was
Sorry.
it was kind of like a. Excuse me.
From the little bubbles in the
it was a little bubble. Yeah. from-
mineral. What is that? It's technically mineral water. Is that what it is or no?
sparkling natural mineral
Okay,
water.
yeah. Yes.
Available in aisle 7.
You shouldn't even be drinking that kind of stuff. You're a man of the cloth. You should be acting right. Where is your tie? First and foremost, where is your tie? You wearing that Hawaiian shirt up in this church gathering, calling this Sunday Night Live? Who do you think you are?
Do you want to know why I access that so well? Because I've had that in my head most of my life.
I love your Hawaiian shirts. And can I just tell you, everybody, every store we go in, whether it's Walmart, Kohl's, which is usually our spots, no matter where we go, Mark's got to find the Hawaiian shirts.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. I have, but I have a particular fit.
You do. You're like a large, tall, or sometimes extra large, tall, but then it won't fit, athletic fit.
Exactly.
It's the Puerto Rican / Scandinavian build.
Yeah, we can't-
Viking /
We can't figure out who
Spaniard.
gave me the shoulders.
I've talked about this before, and I love your mother. However, that side of the family, the ladies,
the Vikings.
the Viking ladies,
Yeah, but you've
Look like
seen
dudes.
But you've seen
Mark.
you've seen the you've seen the
They
people
make the ladies really pretty in the shows. No, go ahead.
they
Blonde, pretty. No,
No,
they were not.
you said in but you've seen my dad's side of the family. There's some big people there too.
That's true, but yeah, I know your aunt is tall, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's many others. So
Yeah,
not sure where all that's come from. But
yeah, I don't know.
anyways, all right, let's talk for a little bit about something that I think is very, very important. And I would say this subject is important for your mental health in ways that you probably don't realize. I want to I couldn't contain in one session talk the importance of this, but I would title this the necessity of faith, hope, and love for your mental health. Not only for that, but for life. in the middle of, I would say, I can't remember how many years ago it was. I want to say we're in 2023 right now. I want to say at least 10 to 15 years ago. I remember I was in a very, very tough place. And I've had my seasons, different seasons of navigating through aspects of discouragement, depression. Sometimes it would want to just go into despair, like, God, where are you? What's going on? What's happening? And as I've been walking my healing journey, I remember I was in my car and I was just kind of pondering what I was going through and what I needed. And this thing kept coming back to me in my thoughts. This thought kept arising. And it was 1 Corinthians 13. And I brought this up last time we had our broadcast, where I mentioned where Paul said, now abide faith, hope, and love, these three, but the greatest is love. And something I was immersed in it. I was baptized in it, if you could say that. I was just thinking about it over and over again, not ruminating, not disturbed, but feeling a sense of I needed to learn this, what Paul was talking about. The greatest is love, because I wasn't living and I wasn't taught in a way where I really understood love was the most important thing. I was taught, get things right, you got to do things just right, perfect performance, all that stuff. So I talked a lot about the power of that last time in the foundation last week, the foundation of love. Paul says the greatest is love, but there's these three aspects, three precepts in the journey that are so important, and you need to know how they relate to each other. He said, these three, now abide, these three. I think some translations say remain. Faith, hope, love, these three. And in that moment when I was driving in my car, which happens, I get like light bulbs turning on at the strangest moments. It's in my car driving. It's I'm in the bathroom. I'm outside going for a walk, and many of you can probably relate to this too. You almost don't even have a pen to write down because you're flooded with just really good insights and really good thoughts. And so in this moment, I saw in my mind the connection. Faith, hope, and love actually relate to each other. They're involved with each other. And they are the recipe, not only for mental health, they're the recipe for what we need in the days that we live in. Because Paul was really bringing out, he was talking about spiritual gifts. He gets into that, but he had to establish the foundation that all that doesn't matter if we're not rooted in these areas. And so in my pastoral ministry, I began teaching this to people I was working with. And you can see on I'm pointing the wrong way. The graphic that I have up here on the screen is these building blocks of love, hope, and faith. And they interact. And as you can see, the arrows point upward in this. And what I want you to know is that maybe if you're battling depression, you're battling OCD, you're battling anxiety, or you're somewhere in between all that, or what have you. This is incredibly important for mood, for your perspective, for your journey of allowing your mental health to gain power, to gain empowerment. It all starts with love. Love is the foundation. Everything is built on love. Nothing is greater than love. So love is more than just a building block. Love permeates everything. But there's something interesting that we need to understand. How does hope relate to love? And what I propose to you and submit to you today is hope is a building block that rests on top of love. Okay? So to explain this a little bit, I would go to Hebrews 11. And don't mind me as I have to flip to some verses. It takes me a second to get there. We know this scripture. Many of you are very, very familiar with it. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So what we see here is we see our relationship with faith and hope here. What faith does is faith puts into action what hope is saying. Now, what is hope saying? We got to define hope for a second. And you want to write this down. You want to meditate on it. You want to let yourself ponder the meaning of this for your own journey. Hope, if you look at the original, it speaks of expectation. It's talking about how you see your life, how you see your journey. Hope is a sense of vision of what your eyes are looking at. It's almost like you take a pair of glasses and you put them on, and this is now what you see in your life, in your journey. It's not where you are, it's the interpretation of where you are. Hope looks at our journey. The Bible calls hope the anchor of the soul. It's an anchor. So hope is I keep pointing in the wrong place. Hope is a key building block, because when your heart gets healed and you gain a sense of God's love for you, love builds hope. It's something that feeds into your hope system. So I realized in struggling with depression that I had a hope problem. Now, what that led me to, whenever you're struggling with one of these, you go down a level for healing, right? Because many of you think you have a faith problem, right? So you start with faith. You're like, I need to get my faith better. I need to build up my faith more. I need to get stronger faith. Now, certainly we all do, but faith is the substance of what hope is saying. Faith is building. It needs something to build on. We're not just blind. It's not just blind faith. Okay. That's not how we live life. Faith is grabbing onto something. It's the substance of hope. It's taking it, and now your life lives out of it. And I saw in that moment where I need these three restored as an influence in my life, because my faith is struggling right now. I'm in despondency. And the reason of that, my faith, like no matter how much I try to pull the trigger or put the pedal to the metal, right? It's just I'm on fumes. How many of you feel that way, right? And when you try to step out in faith, it's like, man, I feel like I'm shooting, blanks. I feel like there's no ammunition. There's no fuel here for me. And it creates a further discouragement. And then you have guilt and shame that hit you, that your faith isn't strong enough. And where's your faith? What's wrong with your faith? What's the matter with your faith?
And the church lady comes in and says, what's going on with your faith? You need to have better faith. You don't have any faith. So where's your faith? And let me tell you about your faith. And let me tell you about my faith. My faith is way better than your faith.
So now you're condemned. And I like to help people break out of the condemnation zone so they can actually gain freedom, because we condemn ourselves and then we stay stuck. So what I realize is when we have a faith problem, that's a symptom. We need our hope strengthened. And hope is actually more valuable than you could ever realize, because hope is your divine vision. It's how you see your life. It's when you wake up in the morning and you look out and you start your day, hope is in action. And for many of us, hope is deferred. It's struggling. It feels like it's been dwindled down. It's been beat up. It's been, it's gone through a lot of disappointment. And what's disappointment, right? You got dissed at the appointment, right? There's an expectation you have that didn't happen. And the Bible teaches, I'll bring this scripture up for a second. I'll try to bring up scripture references rather than just saying them, so you can actually see it and apply it to your own study and your own journey. The Bible says here, hope does not disappoint, right? Hope does not disappoint. So for many people, they go, I don't know. I feel like in my journey, I'm disappointed all the time. I feel like I'm stepping into this. I have a hope for this. And I get disappointed all the time. But look at the next sentence, because this anchors you into what I was sharing about how hope relates to love. Because when you have a faith problem, you need to go down a level to rebuild hope. When you have a hope problem, you need to rebuild the power of God's love to lovingly embrace you, to heal you, and to bring life into how you see life through his love. The sentence here says, hope doesn't disappoint because the love of God has been poured out in our hearts by the Holy Spirit who is given to us. So here's another example of showing us the relationship that hope and love have together. Now, I'll go back to the proverb writing because it brings up something that many people struggling with depression need to understand and need to experience in their life. Because with depression comes lack of motivation, energy is low, lethargic. But if we were to describe it in a nutshell, it's hope being compromised, being messed with, being damaged, beat down. And the proverb writer expresses it really well here, where he says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. And this could speak of your spirituality in your heart. Could it also speak of breeding actual physical illness? Certainly our bodies can come under the effect of hopelessness and despair, and now our physiology is coming under the influence of that kind of impact. Hope deferred here. To draw, to drag, to draw out, to lift out, to drag along, to lead along. You're going in your life, in your journey, and you're trying, like, for example, you're trying to work on your mental health. And you're like, I'm battling with the same thing that I battled with a year ago. I'm battling the same thing I battled with 10 years ago. I'm getting nowhere. And so there's a sense of your expectation, your sense of hope feels like it's being dragged out, and hope gets painful at that place. We read in the Bible, we have quick timelines. We want this to happen by next week. And, we live a microwave experience. When you read the Bible, you see hundreds and hundreds of years happening in between this thing and that thing. God has a totally different timetable that he's working on, but he's also very loving and very patient in his timetable. And so the scripture here says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. But what's the solution? What's the solution to hope? The love of God is the solution, but we see here in Proverbs, desire comes, it's a tree of life. For many of us that have navigated through depression, you know that tapping into desire is a very, very important recovery. Because when you're struggling with depression, you don't have desire. You lose taste for foods, you lose taste for fun, you lose taste for enjoyment. People ask, what do you like to do? You go, I don't even know. I don't even know. Maybe you never allowed yourself to enjoy, so it becomes even more challenging. Or what was once enjoyable is now no longer enjoyable. That's a critical piece of the puzzle when they're evaluating what they call clinical depression, is a loss of joy of what you used to enjoy before. And the proverb writer here says, man, that disempowering where hope is being pulled at and stretched, you become weary. Even to the point where it just makes the heart sick. Just that heaviness, that weight. But what leads us back to fruitfulness, or as the scriptures say, a tree of life, is desire. Where does desire kind of begin to come out of? How do I rebuild desire in my mental health journey when hope is struggling, when hope is having a hard time? It's relational. It's relational. It's going back to being loved. When I think about God healing our hearts, many of us are recovering the love of God in powerful ways in the healing of our hearts by this word, that God delights in us, that he looks at us with delight. The Bible even says, delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. How many of you as Christians, when you think of desire, you think of it as purely an evil thing? And for many of you, that beat down your hope because you're like, hey, I really like this. And God's probably bringing great desires in you for something. Maybe it's a certain skill or certain work. You kind of go, oh, this can't be God. It doesn't sound spiritual, but it's a way you make a difference and make an impact. And you flow out of your heart. For me, I felt like going through depression was also an invitation for me to recover true desire. Because I spent my life doing what everybody else wanted me to do, or what I felt God was telling me to do. And it was this kind of very obsessive, compulsive, perfectionistic kind of thing. And as I crash, it gives me an opportunity to let God love me and to rebuild. What does it look like to walk in desire? And when you when we're in this place where we realize, okay, I got a faith problem, that's revealing I have a hope issue. Yeah, but I feel like hope is just smashed. Okay, and brings you back to love. How do we start with love? Love receives you right where you're at, in your depression, in your anxiety, in your struggle. Now, many of you can't land in that because you see your mental health battle as so unacceptable, you reject yourself. So therefore, you reject love because you feel you'll only be loved when you get over your mental health battle. Somewhere over the rainbow, you finally break free, then you'll be loved. Instead of realizing what you need is love right now. is you need the receptivity of God's love in your goofiness, in your battle, in your disempowered state. And with that welcoming that God brings you in, there is the kindness and the patience of God. Kindness is how God operates towards us. Patience is how he handles us in our struggle, in our sin, in our bondage, in our brokenness, in our mistakes, in all of that. So for many of us, we're trying to build faith, and we're almost like a self-help locomotive. Like, I think I can. We're like trying to pep talk ourselves, right? Many of our church services are pep talk kind of, pep rally kind of things. I'm not against it. I'm not against that. I've conducted services much like that myself. It's needed to express ourselves, express our faith for God, right? But we're also not aware. I can strengthen your faith by loving on you. Love believes all things. So when I empower your love capacity, I'm now feeding into your hope line. When I'm feeding into your hope, I'm giving you the ability to say, I can step up for one more day. There's another week, there's another month, there's another chapter, there's another opportunity. I don't need to see, what's my life going to look like 10 years from now? I just need to know that tomorrow's a new day. Isn't it interesting that God in his word, in the destruction of Jerusalem, looks at Jeremiah and gives him the revelation of, my mercy is new every morning. You want to talk about hopelessness? I mean, God warned Israel, you get on board. This stuff's going to happen if you don't follow my ways. Then it happens, and they're put into captivity. Jeremiah warned them, and now he's watching them being taken into captivity. And still in that place, God goes, my mercy's new every morning. My mercy's here. That's God's love in your struggle, in your sin, in your mistakes. That's his mercy. Mercy isn't cheap. Mercy isn't just overlooking. Mercy is God looking right at you and loving you in your struggle. That's what we need. That's what we need in our mental health journey. We want the fix, right? We want the faith person to say, pray over me and pray a deliverance prayer that I'll be healed and set free, right? Pray for me that this deliverance will just, pray that God, I've seen countless people that pray and this depression will just be gone right now. And really what we're needing a journey. I'm not saying that a prayer like that couldn't help, but we're going for a quick fix. And what God is wanting to lead us into is a journey with this stuff. So where do you find yourself today? Where do you say that you're struggling? You say, man, I'm really struggling with my faith. Well, wherever you are, drop down a level. I'm struggling with my faith. That means I need help in my hope, because I want to live in that hope that's not taken out by disappointment, because I know God is with me. And when your hope is struggling, you go down to the root foundation. Well, what if I'm struggling with love? What do I go down to? There is no further. There's no pass go. Do not collect $200. Do not move. We stay there, because not only do we stay there, we live in it, because love operates in hope. Love operates in faith. They all work together. They don't work apart from each other, but they're pieces that work together in beauty and in unity in your journey. And that's why when we step in faith, faith requires love. That faith works through love, right? Where hope is not disappointing, because the love of God is shed abroad in our hearts and in our life. Where do you find yourself struggling? I believe, and I'm going to propose this to many of you, I believe that many of you are struggling here in this hope area. Maybe you looked at this past year and you see the economy, or you see world events, you see the lawlessness or the ungodly thought pattern, and it's chipping away at your hope. It's chipping away at what you thought life was going to be like. Or you had financial collapse, or you had illness come into your home, or you had setbacks, or you're just in the middle of a list of setbacks in your life. And hope is needing to be rebuilt. You're not going to build hope by just going, come on, and yelling at yourself. Some people promote that, and that only goes so far, and it eventually leads to more burnout. The grace of God is here, so we don't need to burn you out. What you need is you need to listen to what love is saying, because that's who God is, love, and he is here to love you through. For example, if you as a friend go, spend some time with a friend who's hurting, and you just love on them for a while, do you notice that if they're willing to receive it, that they get just a little bit more optimism, just a little bit more hope, just a little bit more like, okay, I think I can make it. That's the effect that love has on us. Now, in our hope journey, many of you also realize too, what I was hoping on was not a rock. It was not a solid anchor. Maybe it was like, oh, I'm going to put all my hope in, I'm going to, get this job, or I'm going to get this opportunity or this, and the disappointment, and it feels like the floor came out from underneath us. I remember in 2006, I stepped out very boldly from a very steady paying and position at a large church that was growing. And I had a heart for seeing people set free. And I was like, I can't do it this way anymore. I just can't. Somehow I got to figure out how to help people in their hearts heal. Our hearts are broken. We're a goofy, dysfunctional body, and we're not dealing with stuff. And that was a premise that began a sense of stepping out. My wife and I, we'd left the church, started from scratch, and had an expectation, this is going to lead to this, it's going to lead to this, and it's going to lead to this. And in the middle of that, it was like, yeah, there were some things, some speaking things. I began some book writing, but there was a lot not happening. And there I am for seasons working construction. There I am. And the time that this faith, hope, and love thing came to my mind, I was working for a guy who had a very successful website business, and I was doing HTML work for him and stuff like that. Driving an hour each way, just barely making it. At times in the car, just crying like, God, what happened? What did I do? I stepped out to heal hearts and to bring this message. And little did I know I was in a season that God was working some things out in my life. He was helping me to learn who I am, and he was detoxing me from my whole life of basically my identity being a pastor and church leader guy. And I had to relearn who I was. And it was in the middle of that I got this revelation that I really need to get rooted in faith, hope, and love. And it led me to realizing I need to get rebuilt in love, because my hope and my expectation is still on some shallow stuff, or it's fragile. I'm putting all my hope that this thing is going to work out, because if it doesn't, then I'm done. How many of you we do that, right? This thing has got to work out, because if it doesn't, I'm sunk. Are we really? That's why the scripture speaks so much to us about making Christ our anchor, making relationship with him our anchor. He said he'll never leave us or forsake us. He also said, I'm coming back and I'm establishing my kingdom, and there will be a manifestation of the sons and daughters of God, and you're in that. Romans 8 talks about this hope, that we have this hope within us, and there's an ache within our hearts that we have, right? We joyfully expect his return, but there's an ache because we see the sin, we see the depravity, we see the brokenness, we see the earth under the influence of sin, and we cry out in some ways similar to the cry they had in the Old Testament when they were awaiting Messiah. And now Messiah has come, and he is going to return, and we await him. And this time, when Jesus arrives, he will not be the suffering servant. He will be the king to rule and reign. He will come in all of that glory, and you and I are going to be with him. So we anchor ourselves in that hope, and we walk backwards from that in the sense of that's where things are going. Now, what does that look like here today? How can I conduct myself today in my struggle, in my battle, keeping in mind this isn't all for nothing? Because, see, there are people under the weight of depression so much, so intense, they feel like life isn't worth living anymore. We see the temptation of suicidal tendencies and people losing a sense of wanting to live. One of the things that is so helpful is what I'm talking about here, is rebuilding what it means to be loved. Because many of us in our crash in these dark places, what we need is not just a fix-it solution, we need love. And when love begins to fill, that's why some of you are like, man, I'm struggling to connect with God. Well, do you know him as a father? All right, let's learn who he is as a loving father. I don't even know if I can even connect to that. Well, can you look at yourself in the mirror? Yep, I can see myself in the mirror. How about you start having loving dialogue in what you see in the mirror? I don't know that I can do that, right? It shows where we have to roll up our sleeve, where the work needs to be done. You and I need to get rebuilt in love into the truth that sets us free, to now re-anchor our hope. And the hope that we need is the hope that no matter what happens, God is ever present and with us. And everything that we're going through, there's this hope that Paul talked about. I believe it's in Romans 8, where he says, we wait for that. Oh, no, I'm thinking of a different passage. We wait for that hope with expectation and with perseverance. And perseverance, Peter lays out what that produces, that he lays out a list of things. And when you look at the scriptures, the power of perseverance is very important. It's going through stuff where your hope gets disappointed and you rebound again. That's the heart of an overcomer. Man, I stepped into this. I thought this was going to work out, and then this happened. And God goes, I'm here. This is all for learning. This is all for learning. This isn't for failure. I haven't left you hanging. It's not about you doing this perfect. It's a new day, a new opportunity today. My mercy's new every morning. Let's rebuild that hope. And so then faith just shows up and goes, what do I got to grab onto today? Because every day faith is looking for something to grab onto. And when we're being rooted in love and rebuilding our hope, faith just goes, just take the next step. You got this. Just take the next step. Faith is not asking you to jump across a cavern. Faith is asking you today to just take the next step. So what I'd like to encourage you for your own journey, and feel free to post a question if you like, be more than happy to address it. As a part of your mental health journey, and I put this in my journal, I ask myself the question, if I'm struggling, having a rough week or rough time, I first ask the question, what is love saying? Now, for many of you say, well, what is God saying, right? But if I ask you that, I may trigger your unhealed version of how you interact with God, that he is a slave-driving, angry taskmaster that's just looking to beat you up at any moment. We have to relearn who God is as a father and learn that relationship and what that's like. That's why I want to target this, because faith, hope, and love, this is what God's operating in these days. So what does love say? That can be a journaling prompt for your journey. What does, if I looked at where I'm at with full loving capacity, what would I say about it? How would I interpret what I'm going through? What would be helpful for me right now? Then we bring hope and let hope rest on that. What do I need to start being aware of in my day if I'm filled with God's love for me? Because if you're struggling with debilitating depression, for example, love may say, you know what? Just make your bed today, take a shower, get dressed, and take one step forward. This is where God's patience and his compassion is so awesome. He's not expecting of you what your old expectation used to tell you, that you got to get these 90 things and all these things, and this needs to happen. He's bringing it back to the simplicity. Just take the next step. So what's hope saying over your journey right now? That it's not over. That today's a new day, a new opportunity. Take a deep breath. And everything you've been through is going to be a part of your learning, your healing, and your growth. And the third question is, what does faith say right now? What does faith say about your circumstances? What does faith say about the next step? I believe that if you'll start using this as a metric in your journey, it'll transform how you approach your days, how you approach seasons of your life. So, Father, I just pray in the name of Jesus that my brothers and sisters will listen to this brother from another mother with the same father. I pray that you'd help us to get rooted deeper in a hope that's steadfast. The anchor of Christ Jesus, what he's done, what he's paid for, and he hasn't forgotten us. And in the meantime, living in a way where we see that our life matters and that we can be a blessing in some way, maybe just one step. Build us in your love today, that we would know your love, have love in and of ourselves in how we see our journey and love our neighbor out of the love you've shown us. So God, I just thank you for that. In Jesus' name, pray this was a blessing for your journey. Pray this was a blessing for where you are, what you're going through. I think I will do a little dance break, and then I'll take some more questions before we close. Maybe a little bit of, yeah, that's just right, to match with the Hawaiian shirt. We interrupt this broadcast right now to bring you.
Yes, please. It just doesn't get old. It just doesn't get old. It doesn't.
It just doesn't get old.
It
just
actually doesn't, and I love that you did that. Yeah, because J.C. Burden Lifter was like, "Where's the tambourine, man?"
It was there. It was there. It was happening. It was happening.
It was happening, and
You better put that tambourine away. That's not very spiritual right now.
is it okay if I mention the text that you sent me about this video about Jeremiah?
That's fine. Yeah.
So I just want to laugh about it. It's not in a
Well, I might try to track him down, see if I can.
well. We're just kind of like intrigued by this guy. First of all, we think he's super talented, and the guy that's leading everything.
Yeah.
So Mark sent me his webpage and is like, oh, here he is.
Yeah.
It was really cute.
Yeah.
We just think he's great.
Maybe I'll try to track him down and talk to him. And because, well, interestingly, because that video clip has been used, especially the one where they're bouncing.
Yeah.
That's been used. Actually, the way I found it was there was I mentioned the DuckTales.
Yes,
and then
you did.
Yeah, then there was like not so great songs that were put to it as well too. But I'm like, it's gotten around, so I wonder how that's had an effect on him,
Right.
And what his thoughts were on that.
Exactly. So, anyways, we have a super chat from Colorful Thinker. This live is amazing. Thank you. This is before I finish the rest of the super chat. My favorite teaching that Mark does is this teaching, hands down. I just love it. It's just a reminder, and I feel like it brings us back to center of just the foundational things that we all need to be reminded
Yeah,
of.
and I think it's gonna at some point it's gonna be a book, and every time I
Yeah.
talk about it, it comes out different.
Right.
I kind of just let it flow.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And but it was helpful for addressing depression, but then it was also helpful just for life because, and I think it applies right now because many people, when they're talking to me, they're trying to understand how do we see God in the times that we live in.
Right.
And so then what we do is we try to make it very complicated. right? Like I need to have this like perfect insight. I need to see this. And really, no, it's about simple. Go back to simple. Loving God, loving your neighbor, learning to live in love, and then let hope be built out of that. Because see, I deal with people that sometimes are so debilitated they can't even get out of bed, right? And that person's not going to change by yelling faith at them.
Right, they're not.
They need love. Now they might have struggles with self-pity and all that kind of stuff. That'll have to be understood over time. Even that's not going to be discovered by just,
Yelling at them because they have to come to that on their own.
Correct.
Correct.
And I learned that for myself, that like I'll see something when I see it. I just need to stay open, but I have to let love have its work, because the love of God helps illuminate the hope that is available to us, which Romans 8 gets into. And at the end of it, Paul's like, nothing's going to separate me from the love of God, right? And how did he come to that point? It was the love of God built up that hope in him. Anyways.
No, it's so good, babe. Anyways, okay, let me finish the super chat here. This live is amazing. I think I have ADHD, and it makes it super difficult for me to calm my mind and focus. How do I slow down to focus and accept where I am? Any courses?
Well, there's a lot I could say about ADHD, and there's not like blanket answers for that. But a lot of ADHD, when it shows up in kids, it's a manifestation of anxiety, and it is perceived as attention issues, where they have the ability to focus, but it's an anxiety issue. And many that have very difficult issues, they often come out of complex trauma, dysfunctional, chaotic homes. That's one area. It's not the only thing, but that's a big part of it. And so there's a conditioning where we get extremely restless within ourselves. And I think that while not everyone would be necessarily officially diagnosed, I think a lot of people can relate to an inability to sit and pay attention. We don't live in our world. We don't live in anything where you can sit and pay attention for prolonged periods of time, right? Everything's quick. It's got to happen quick, and it's got to change. It's got to change quickly. And so, can you read the question one more time?
Certainly. Let me go back. The ADHD makes me super difficult for me to calm my mind and focus. How do I slow down to focus and accept where I am? And are there any courses?
Oh, right. It was pointing to courses. Well, any and all of them, in our and so right now where we've taken our courses is instead of I had this course, that course, this course, that course, and so it's now bundled all into one thing, which is in the community, because I don't want to just shove courses to people. I also want to support their journey, be able to address questions and so forth. So within that, I have the nurture course, certainly. That's been a very valuable tool for so many. A lot of it is you and I having conversations through it and teaching through our discussion. It's nurture, but it comes through practice, learning how to we do it with our kids, we do it with ourselves, is learning how to take time. You have to just practice extending your ability to get still. I started, and this is what people have to understand. I lived my life where I could not access peace for longer than like 5 seconds. I mean that in a literal sense. Let's get 5 seconds. Let's see, I got a little clock right there. That's it.
Right.
And so I operated in faith, hope, and love, which was, I didn't beat myself up over it. Like, okay, I let love have a work. And it was, and that triggered hope. And this was the hope. What hope said is just stretch it a little more. How about 10 seconds? Just practice with that little bit of peace that you can connect to. Just let it grow. Just let it grow. Be still and know that I'm God, and just let it grow. Then 20 seconds was 30, then a minute, then 5 minutes, then 10. And then I remember the day where I had a whole day of peace. That's like, that to me, that was like the power of curing cancer. It was that's how beat down my ability to access peace was.
Yeah, I think too we need to pay attention to things, because I know, especially for me and growing up in the household that I did and having always this just amped up anxiety and just confusion and catastrophe constantly, like pig pen. That's how I used to describe myself back in the day, of just feeling like this chaos swirling around me. Paying attention to where peace does enter in. I remember years ago I was working, if you're from Connecticut or that area, most people who don't end up going into a specific field work for insurance. And that's what I did. So I was working at one of the big companies up there, Cigna. It was Cigna at the time. And there was this old lady who had retired, and my life was in a lot of chaos at the time. But she just was very kind to me. And she worked her little hours out of retirement. And every time she would come in to like move paper or do things, she would stop by at my desk and see me. And she would just ask me how I was doing. And every time she would just come and she would sit against my desk. And I remember that very specifically as like a first marker of feeling what nurture was supposed to feel like. Now, I didn't really know what that was until later, and I could identify it. But I think there's a thing, too, of like when you're looking, tune into the things that bring that to you. If there's people that help you understand that, because really that's where a lot of that is supposed to be imprinted anyway, right, from our mom and dad, of understanding what that is. So then in turn, when we go, okay, we need to receive nurture from God, we now have an imprint of what that feels like. And most of us don't.
Yep.
Who does?
Yeah.
Right? I had to like go, what?
Right.
Nurture? Huh? Come again? I don't know what that feels like.
Yep.
It's like paying attention to those certain things that may make you feel it. And maybe it's, putting on, like my kids love it. And now when they're doing schoolwork, the YouTube videos they'll do like one we just watched was whales. And it's just the drone shots with like instrumental music. If that's what, little things that can maybe make you feel that, to give you a reference for it too.
Yeah. A lot of people I work with, are mentioning these battlegrounds.
Yeah.
My philosophy when it comes to mental health is I never see any battleground as some kind of labeled limitation permanently, meaning that, I have ADHD, so I can't ever. It creates like this block, right? Now, I'm not saying, have more faith, or I'm not trying to lecture anyone. What I am saying is let hope open up a little bit more. So if I was in that battleground, I have my share of attention struggles. I don't know if I've ever been tested or anything like that. But if I was neck deep in that, I would learn the power of the gentle redirect back to focus. That's nurture, right?
That's good.
Not nurture. Yeah. Not nurture is like, I'm trying to illustrate it. I'm thinking about this. Come on, focus, right? That's what we do. What's the matter, right? Or we get into despair, and it's like I can find my mind racing, and over here. First thing I do is I take a deep breath. Okay, what's important right now? And I would, in stillness, gently redirect myself back, and I would go slow. And I'm speeding, slow. You see how this is, right? Now, what I'm illustrating to you is how God works with us. This is who he is. This is what he does, right? A lot of modern culture, too, is uncomfortable with stillness. And in our churches, and do you remember back even when we were pastoring, we were, I would have in church service, I said, we're all gonna sit and we're gonna be quiet for a minute. Or I'd have an instrumental or something, and I just go, we're just gonna be still for a moment and just take in God. So uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Preachers are uncomfortable with silence.
It's true.
Church people don't know what to do with silence. We've trained each other to be uncomfortable with silence. Even in a relationship, you go out with somebody, you got to keep talking. You got to fill in. You're on the phone, you got to fill in every gap, there's no like room to breathe. And it impacts not only our attention, our ability to have peace, our ability to connect to peace, and to connect to nurture.
Yeah.
So
You and I have challenged each other on that too, as far as like even relationship wise, when we're with other people, that be okay in the silence, that you don't have to fill in the awkward. That is so hard.
Yeah.
It's so difficult.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. It's becoming more secure in yourself,
Yes.
becoming, practicing that confidence. When I sit down with people, I find a lot of times I have to help bring that energy down a bit. Because it's like, I got this problem, because the thing I got is right. There is a hyperactivity. It's an anxiety ridden lack of safety in their compass. So, so in bringing that down, I even will use my own way I talk to just kind of slow things down a bit. So they see in my posture, okay, we don't have to be at this rate, at this speed. Yeah, I think it's a big problem in a lot of busy Christianity world. Big problem.
Yeah.
Big problem. Can't pay attention to a sermon. Can't pay. I mean, a lot of sermons are boring. It's
Well, that's a whole other thing. May I read another question to you, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. Kira Joy for Life says, a friend and I have been reading your heart healing journey. I find I'm stuck in what is the first step out of hope deferred status or having a cold heart.
Hope deferred status or having a cold heart. Well, I'd have to confirm that you have a cold heart.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of people misdiagnose themselves.
That's true.
Right? They're like, oh, I have a hard heart. And I'm like, I don't see it. You know, they're being hard on themselves. I don't feel emotions. I feel numb. Okay, numb. Numb might be a better word, right? Let's identify that first. So hope deferred probably taps you out a bit where in your heart, you're worn down. How many of us can admit to that? Like this sense of like there's a weight right here. It's right here. Just that like, you need to take a deep breath and just like let some of that heaviness out. So the solution, is part of it is what was written in Proverbs there. I wasn't able to get to all the scriptures that I could have gotten to today. But when desire comes, it's a tree of life. So start with simplicity in relationship. What connects to desire? What do you like to do? And people are like, well, I want to do what God wants. Okay, we're getting super spiritual.
Yeah.
The beauty of God is sometimes right in the very day-to-day. What do you like doing? Well, I like to sew. Okay, and then they dismiss, that's stupid. That's not godly. That's not real. Okay, I want you to pick up your sewing kit and get back to sewing and see that God is with you in this.
Can I add to, she added yes, more numb, like I can't feel the I don't know phase over and over.
Yeah, you got worn out.
Yeah.
So what I'm not going to tell you to do is do more stuff. That's not do more stuff. We're going to slow things down and we're going to let your heart recover so you can feel again. We're going to connect to desire. And if I was with you, I would say, all right, let's go for a walk. Let's go for a walk. You see that tree?
It's true. You're good at that.
I do this with my kids. Hey,
Do.
what's your favorite? We go over and I go, we're going to pick favorite tree. What's your favorite tree? Oh, I like that tree. And people that, we're struggling, is stupid. There's trees, right? Abby's here. She knows what I'm talking about. Stupid tree. I got other things, right?
He's like, when can we go to Sephora? Forget the trees.
People ask questions to Jesus, and he goes, "Look at the lilies. Look at the birds." Right? They're like, the birds. Give me the summary of the Torah. Give me the like. And he's like, look at the birds. See them? You think those birds are feeding themselves? And I would go, yeah, they are feeding themselves. He's feeding them. Wait. Right? So I learn a lot to be reflective. And so I'd take you for a walk. Notice the trees. And the sun, nice. What does that feel like with the sun hitting your face? And what an amazing creative thing that God made us to let the sun hit us. And it creates vitamin D. And vitamin D helps your mood. God wants us to be out in the sun. Isn't that interesting? Right? I could go on and on. But I think that a lot of us need healing and hope deferred. We collectively went through a worldwide traumatic event with the COVID thing. Wherever you stand on it, whatever your opinion on it, it created a traumatic hit to culture. It divided families. It changed some people's lives dramatically. Loss of jobs and all kinds of stuff going on. On top of that, many believers are kind of feeling a little like bewildered, like, where do I land in this? So much is changing. So much is happening. We need our hope recalibrated. And it's not like getting deeper and doing a 15-week study on the book of Revelation and getting your charts figured out. It's getting into a relationship, finding that one person you can talk to, interact with. Love yourself in this. Don't beat yourself up, condemn yourself. Let love be the anchor that helps you see what you need to see. Because when love's there, you go, you know what I need? I need to start sleeping better again. That's not spiritual.
Yeah, she said, this makes a lot of sense. The Lord told me to focus on things that warm my heart and make me happy and joyful.
Good. So here's another. If you want me to get biblical, I will get biblical. So Elijah, right? He gets hit with Jezebel, right? I've taught on that Jezebel spirit. It is a factor. It is a thing. I don't obsess about it, but there's a lot to learn about that. What we call Jezebel. He gets hit with her intimidating words, and he starts spiraling. He goes from this man of faith. He doesn't even know who he is. He's spinning out. He's depressed. He thinks he's running for his life. He's alone. No one's there, right? What happens? He goes into the wilderness, and he gets a break. And what does God provide for him? Food. What does God provide for him? A nap. That's what he needed. And for a lot of you, what you need is probably a nice cooked meal and a conversation, a cup of coffee. A cup of coffee, talking with a nice friend, can be such a remedy. You know what it does for me is it takes if I'm my mood or my state is discouraged or low. Sometimes I need to take my mind off of it, because right now the magnifying glass is in discouragement or something, and I need to reset it. And sometimes listening to someone else, get your mind off yourself and get in relationship with someone, changes the subject. And I'll revisit that later when I can see it through more loving perspective.
It's good, babe.
You know what I mean?
This is a good question. To Mars Hope, as a fellow INFJ, I've struggled with connecting with people on this level and feel like I come across as too intense. Do you have suggestions on how to relate and to be less intense?
Tomorrow's was that your question, or are you talking about my problem?
We know this one.
Yeah. I've had to learn that I've had to learn in interactions where I was too much. I had to chill out. Too much.
We sometimes we understand we could probably be too much for people.
I think this broadcast can be too much for a lot of people. Like, oh my goodness, they're talking about feelings and broken. Oh, right. Right. So I had to learn how to calibrate. You know, I love to think deeply, feel deeply. I can go wander in the woods for an hour and enjoy it, get so much out of it. And then when I connect with people, I love interesting conversations, or going into things where I can, I love to share things, right? And I realize where it can be too much for people, where they don't go there. You know, sometimes you get you talk to somebody and you get the, right? You get the crickets. I think that it's not that there's something wrong with them or there's something wrong with me. It just didn't land. And I learned to accept that. I've always been the kind of person too where friendships take time to build. Because I see them in. Some people are just like super social and they just like connect here, connect there. I've never been that kind of person. It's slow. It's slow, and if it works out, it works out. You give it a try, and if it goes deeper, if it goes there. I think it just helps. Don't beat yourself up, but be sober and just going, yeah, I'm wired this way. And usually INFJ kind of traits, they like to go deep and have meaningful interactions. Well, that is going to not be so easily found. And when you find it, don't dive into the Mariana Trench suddenly. Take it one step at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a pivot, an OCD question.
We can't have a broadcast without an OCD question.
Yeah, it's a super chat. And I'm not going to say the name because I'll butcher your name. So I'm very sorry. But I am getting a lot of ads for fundraisers, calls to donate money after I donated some in the past. And I struggle with this topic. Should I donate every time I see an ad or get a call?
You're a compulsive donor.
My dad is. He does that. He's bad. My dad. My sister has to constantly help him because he'll get an ad or he'll get psyched up by somebody, like something he sees in Facebook, and he donates to like everything, and he gets put in these recurring things, and she has to help him unwind it all because he gets sucked in. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because the Bible talks about this compulsion.
Yeah.
In fact, Paul actually said, "Don't give out of compulsion."
Right.
And so, what I suggest to people, here's what I suggest to you. This freaks people out when I say this. Besides maybe like your regular giving, okay? Because I don't want to hurt your church by saying this.
Right.
But besides your regular like committed giving or whatever, don't donate for a month to anything. To recalibrate, fast that, starve that, and so that you recalibrate because you want to learn to give just out of love. And there's a big difference. Man, when you give out of love, it's like, think about giving somebody a gift at Christmas, right? It's like you wrap it and you can't wait to give it to them, right? And it's like, here you go, right? That's really what we want to be able to connect to. Most of us have been trained to give out of compulsion or out of like, God's going to curse me. You know, you and I had this problem where we're like, oh, maybe we need to donate or maybe we need to give.
Yes.
We're not giving enough. Oh, we got to give more. And then we give like sacrificially.
Yes.
And there's like, no, we got to do more or else God's going to. No, that's compulsive. And Paul's like, now God loves a cheerful giver. So compulsion is not joyful.
Yeah. Someone pointed out, Dustin pointed out that he said, I like that you called it an OCD question, even though it doesn't say OCD, but it's clearly an OCD question.
Correct.
Listen, okay, we have the OCD thing going on right now, and I know OCD.
Yeah,
I know those OCDs.
Yeah. That's a very very common
We
compulsion
understand.
to
It is.
have to give. I know many people that they got people in other countries. They're trying to like, you know,
Especially when you're in those services and they're like, when you need the seed and I won't even,
I could pull that. I'd be like, you know, Proverbs, you want your hope strengthened today?
Yes.
Proverbs 12:13. Write me a check for $12.13.
Right.
You've seen that. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Put the Bible verse. I'm like, I got to figure out how to preach Psalm 150 because then I get 150.
Hey, do you remember this was when we were broke and we were like giving out of faith and our check did not go through. Remember that? We were just like first married.
Yeah.
Oh, I was so embarrassed.
Our hearts were in a good place.
It was.
We were trying to fix.
And then because the check didn't go through, it was OCD messing with my mind that because the money didn't go through with that sermon that day, that then like we were going to not get the blessing. Oh, y'all know what I'm talking about. Okay.
Yeah. We were compulsively trying to escape.
Yes.
We were compulsively trying to escape pain.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we needed
faith,
hope,
fix.
and love.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And we let love happen.
Yeah.
God's like, I got you on a journey. It's not about what you're doing wrong. Just
So
one
true.
foot in front of the other. You know. So it's good. Anything else?
I don't know. I feel like I need my steak and my corn on the cob. What about you?
Sounds really good to me.
Okay,
Well,
the person said I can call them NJ. So you know what? Thank you, NJ, because I didn't want to mess up your name.
what's happening, NJ?
I hope we answered your question.
When that offering bucket passed by, you better watch out.
Babe, this was really good.
Oh, great.
I love that teaching so much. Anyway, people are saying thank you, and thank you, everybody.
Awesome, everyone.
And our little Abby, thank you, everyone on Rumble and those who interacted with her. She just loves it. So we are looking to probably have her with us in other broadcasts.
Please be sure
she'd
to
love
like
it.
and subscribe. Help us out. Help push the algorithm and
Slap that algorithm where it needs to go. Slap that algorithm right up in the face. Glory to God.
Oh gosh, I love it so much.
Oh, well.
That's the best.
Well, it's been wonderful.
Yes.
Laudwell and the Creek Don't Rise.
Yep.
We'll be back. I'll be back this week with some more stuff. It's your brother from another mother.
And your sister from another mister.
Say we'll be back. But in the meantime,
We out. Thank y'all.